I guess it was about 2005 when Thomas Friedman published his book, The World is Flat. And I remember at the time what seemed like a pretty sensible proposition to staple a green card to the graduates of these, particularly the graduates of advanced degrees that we need here in the United States. So, Mr. Barola, you believe that the STEM provisions that you've advocated for should be Congress's priority?
Thank you, Senator. The STEM provisions will that are in the America Competes Act, if reconciled with USICA in a final piece of legislation, really enhance, I think, the general goals of what we're trying to achieve, which is to strengthen our research and our technological endeavors here in the United States and that infrastructure. And we do believe that would help tremendously in our ability to attract, educate, and retain some of the best and brightest.
I think we naturalize about 1 million people a year in the United States, but as you heard me in my opening statement, we tend to be more related to family relationships as opposed to employment or skills-based immigration. That's proven to be a challenge for us in the past, is how to balance those two goals. Dr. Latios, may I ask you a question, please? Obviously, the issue of a pathway to some legal status for DACA recipients is important because we don't know what the Fifth Circuit or the Supreme Court is going to decide. Is that correct?
Correct. Having a pathway to citizenship would really change a lot of things. I know for me personally, it would provide peace of mind to no longer live in fear, to no longer have that constant anxiety of deportation, to really focus on my patients and not worry about who will hire me or what states will be able to provide.
But you will lose your employment authorization if the DACA program ends, correct?
Correct, I would.
And you don't qualify as a dreamer for an employment-based green card or an H-1B visa or a family-based green card either, correct?
Correct. Those are very limited options that I would have.
Perhaps this isn't a fair question, but as between the STEM provisions in the American Competes Act or provide some certainty for DACA recipients, which do you think should be Congress's priority?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
Between providing some stability for DACA recipients or providing employment-based green cards for people with advanced degrees, what do you think should be Congress's priority?
In topics like this, I think when it's so complex, it's common to want to pit immigrants against each other and try and figure out who is more deserving of these types of guarantees. I personally don't consider myself more deserving than anyone else, and I really urge for broad protections for everyone to have the same opportunities that I've been able to have thus far to be where I am today, to be able to fulfill my own dreams. And I think that Congress should approach this in a comprehensive manner, thinking about really the fact that lives are at stake here, that this is a topic that extends beyond just a piece of paper, that it's somebody's livelihood that we're talking about.
Ms. Love, you have some ideas about a DACA compromise. Could you share that with us?
Well, of course, thank you, Senator Cornyn. I agree with everything that is being presented today. However, I have to say, as a daughter of Haitian immigrants, I cannot ignore that last summer, tens of thousands of Haitian people gathered in Del Rio, Texas, at the southern border, seeking asylum or just a better life. But because they were from Haiti, a country that was not on the DHS's eligibility list for H-2A or H-2B visas at the time, the crowds were unable to enter the country or claim existing work visas. And let me just explain that these weren't just people that were diseased on the streets. They had to have significant resources, which they were taking advantage of, by the way, to get to where they are today, to even get to the border. We can't ignore what's happening at the border. And I think that this is absolutely a multi-pronged issue. We have to find common ground and legislation that addresses all of these issues so people can have the same opportunities that Dr. Larios has. I'm an admirer of hers. I think that she is a rock star, but she contributes to our society. And the only reason why she was able to contribute is because of DACA, but DACA is not permanent. So we need to make sure that Congress comes together and has legislation that gives stability and a pathway. But we have to include our borders also, because we cannot have the same situation that we had at the border and seeing people give up everything they have for the chance of an American dream just to be turned back. And now they're not eligible if they come back. They lose their eligibility.
Thank you. Next, Senator Durbin.